Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a fabulous Tuesday. Coming off, you know what I'm talking about, coming off Memorial Day. I want to give thanks and greetings and all those good things, particularly a shout out to everybody who came on the show yesterday at a full house. Shout out to the Shout Out Show family, Shout Out Show soldiers representing as usual. And we had a good talk yesterday. We really got into that space of being able to talk about Memorial Day. You know, we celebrate those who lost their lives in war, and we kind of overlook the fact that there are people who are not at war who lost their lives, and the scope of sacrifice. I thought I'd try to go into that space a little bit more deeply yesterday, talking about having people understand really what that is, particularly from people of color, persons of color perspective, African American, Latinos, Native Americans, who found themselves in this conundrum of supporting a country fighting for freedom that did not fight for their freedom. This is not to make a big deal of it. And of course, we also went into the aspect of where did Memorial Day actually start? It started with the humility and humanity of Black soldiers and Black citizens down in Charleston, South Carolina, who took it upon themselves to bury the dead of the Confederate and the Union because they felt like this is a thing that God wanted. So I want to make sure that we get to that place. All right. So let's get into this space. You have white supremacy. You have white folks. And you have this larger concept of replacement. Today, we're going to be talking about white folks and the replacement theory, better known as the Great Replacement Theory, that has been bannered about most recently with the shooting in Buffalo, where the shooter killed 10 African Americans, but also this idea that it has not been something that's new. The Great Replacement Theory goes back several years. Now, we can, of course, put together the puzzle, but you can go back actually to the brown shirts in the Nazi Revolution and talking about Hitler and how he framed an argument that the Jews were going to replace the Germans. Very interesting and very dangerous concept, because now we see people who have moved, if you will, moved away from the whole scope of logic, and now are building this continuum of fear. What I mean about fear is these people, let's call them agitators. These agitators have worked on a formula whereby they double down on the fact that they've already been replaced. Let me say it again. They've already been replaced. So the whole schism of anxiety of being replaced has already happened. If you were to remove people of color, if you were to remove the less fortunate and allow these same people in the space, they would be, of course, the underclass. They would be the people who would not be replaced. They would be the people that are suppressed. Make sure you understand the difference between being suppressed and being replaced. In white culture, nobody ever really talks about being suppressed. To be under the thumb of someone that looks like you, you're white, they're white, is something that they don't talk about. That is the proverbial meat that falls out of the side of the sandwich. What has happened over the years, thanks to social media, and thanks to the fact that there's been a lack of activity from, admittedly, large portions of people of color, not just responding to the emergencies and the things that shock us, but looking at this whole thing as a very broad mosaic, understanding that folks have a plan for you. And if you don't engage or at least question what that plan is for you, they're going to do it with or without your consent. So now we have the Great Replacement Theory. And let me tell you something about white folks. Not all of them, but there's enough of them to make this a valid point. White folks have a history of win-losses in the context of how they deal with one another. If you put white folk in a room and walk away, by the time you came back a day later, they would have found ways to divide themselves into I'm better than you, I'm better than you, you're not better than me. They would figure that out. whether it's I have better education, I have more money than you, I come from a different line of people, my people are religious. This is something you have to understand, that the schematic, the schism in white culture has been there for a very long time. We often say that when the white folk came to America, they were not here to establish religion. You always hear the story, they were here to establish religious freedom. They were not here to establish a religious freedom. If that was the case, they would have stayed where they were and fought for it. They were here to establish an oppressive society that served them, much the same as the one they ran from. So, that being said, the replacement theory is something we're going to get into. I don't want to run too long. I can see Satana going to wrap it up, but I don't want you to go anywhere because this is a very interesting topic. So I'm going to thank you for advance and actually attending this concept, because in a couple months, this is going to be front and center in the 2020 midterm elections. This is Preacher Mars, the Shout Out Show. Let's get it rolling. And we're back. Before we get started, I have to salute my people, my Shout Out Show soldiers, my Shout Out Show family, the stars in the building. We can't get started. I don't want to go on some long diatribe without congratulating and welcoming everybody to the show. So let's go ahead and get up. First off, we got Mama Moss, who had a great time with. We had the first annual Yolanda, JT, Satana, everybody on the East Coast. We had the first annual Moss crab cake feast and reunion. So we're gonna have to do it again next year. It was good. I have to admit, it turned out way better. Shout out to Mr. Leon Alexander Jr.'s father, Big Leon, came over. We had quite a feast along with Miss Eleanor and my mom and Jamie, her cousin Jamie, her husband Kendrick, and I'm Maxine, the proprietor of BeFinancialIndependent.com. Okay, that's number one. Number two is yesterday's show. When I got off, I really thought about what people were saying, and I really got a much nuanced view about it, because I actually read something from a slave journal yesterday, and it was fascinating. It was fascinating because I think we overlook the fact that people think that because you're oppressed that you're not intelligent, that you're going through some kind of hardship, that you are not able to think your way. Like I talked about the whole scope of having the entire encyclopedia of Black history at my expense, at my fingertips. It just gave me just a different perspective. And reading this small little thing of a woman talking about her experience as a slave woman and having to, in some regards, fake a relationship with the master to get what she needed for her family. Amazing. Okay. Shout out SOS family. There you go. Going on. Great topic. Sister Reed, I don't know if you're back from Oklahoma, but if not, I hope you're enjoying yourself. You're in Oklahoma, get to Oklahoma City. I have a friend there. I will hook you up for a steak dinner, and you and Derek can have a good time. Tulsa's not that far from Oklahoma City. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to your entire family. All tough. Our Canadian ambassador to the show, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Thank you so much for tuning in, brother. Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir. Good to see you. And next up, Sister Sonia Salahuddin Dalton, my sister. Her and Bilal was sending all these pictures back from their vacation in the Bahamas. The Bahamas, Nassau, Jamaica. I get it. Y'all were rolling and rocking. I enjoy it. But I saw a video of all your grandchildren, and I didn't see y'all in the picture because I figured y'all were tired of grandkids. God bless you, though. All right. Sister Yolanda Thomas. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah barakatuh. Sister Thomas is my sister-in-law. She's the wife of Brother JT and the mother of Jordan Thomas and Justin Thomas. So they were driving back. They were so kind as to tune into the show on the way back from Michigan. And I hope you guys had a great time and I'm happy that you got back safely. Next up, Brother Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, good to see you on the platform, man. I hope everything's going well and you're having a great day. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. Let's roll. Oh, how can we get interesting topic? Yes, yes. Well, I was going to do this topic actually last week, but when I had totally forgotten. I admit this, I totally forgot the second anniversary of George Floyd's death, so I had to do that show on a Monday, and I think we're going to do War. What is it good for? We're still going to do that, talking about the Ukrainian and Russian conflict, and then it moved around, and then Thursday we just had a light show, films that made you smile. And we will be doing lighter stuff on Thursday. I hope you guys don't mind. Not that you can change it, but we want to do it anyway. Okay. White folks and replacement theory. Replacement theory and white folks. Let me tell you guys how replacement theory works for you. You will never be replaced. Let me say this again. You will never be replaced. But what people will do who are not you, particularly these white folks in this replacement theory phoniness and foolishness, is the fact that people in their mind think that they can reassign your value. And in reassigning you value, it means that in their mind that you have a certain amount of relevancy. Thus, if I can reassign your value, if you were worth $100, and we have $100 conversations, if I can reassign your value and now you're worth $25 at some point in time, here's the deal. I can replace you. The fear mongering is the fallacy is that person over there is somehow going to replace you. Oh, you're going to replace them. Somehow you have figured out all the nuances of financial advantage, constitutional law, racism, and you're going to just fling it back on them. This is the lowest lizard brain type of activity that you can ever be a part of, brothers and sisters. That a white man looks at a black man and goes, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with him. I don't like the way he looks at me. I don't like the way he breathes. It is a ongoing discussion about white frailty. And so when you talk about replacement theory, it should be white frailty theory because they understand that they have screwed over everybody in the world. And it has to be coming that it's not replacement that they're worried about. No. They're worried about retribution. They are worried about retribution. Now, you would say, what do you mean, preacher, we're going to get up in arms? No. You don't get up in arms. Brother Malcolm, Brother Martin, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that you do not get into retribution with people who are lesser in spirit and lesser intelligence than you. What you do is you produce excellence. And so this whole idea, if you looked at the juxtaposition, is that they're fearful that they're going to be replaced by excellence. That when the marketplace opens and we say, who's got the value? The people who are excellent in their character, excellent in business, they're going to be chosen first. It's not being replaced. It's being abandoned. It's being ignored. That to the point, brothers and sisters, that even when we have these shootings, they are cries for attention. In the business of teaching severely emotionally disturbed kids, we call this negative attention seeking. And so when you talk about replacement theory, there are people who sit in hovels and don't leave their house and they don't work and they get a welfare check, or maybe they don't. But somehow the person that goes to work, that Latino, that black man, that Native American that goes through all this BS just to hold their head high, somehow I'm targeting that person because they're going to take from me what I have. Don't nobody want what you have. You don't have anything. Why, if I'm driving in a Mercedes Benz, am I worried about you, white man, at a bus stop with a half a bus pass? I don't want to be you. Don't nobody want to be you. Don't want nobody to be these Karens. Don't want nobody to be these sad politicians. You got a cop politician in a wheelchair calling all kind of ruckus. He has no idea that even the white people don't want you. and he got voted out. But the first thing he said was, it was the liberals, it was the blacks, and it wasn't the liberals, it was you. Don't nobody care about you. One of the funniest things I ever saw was my grandfather when we were walking down the street and a white man thought he should somehow engage him. My grandfather walked right past him. He was like, excuse me, sir. My grandfather said, and kept on moving. And I felt a sense of power because my grandfather was like, well, number one, he was in his 60s. This was a 20-some, 30-some-year-old man that felt like he had privilege to talk to my grandma. Like, hell, I love the man. I live with him. I can't talk to him. How the hell are you going to talk to him? But on a serious tip, when you start talking about replacement theory, be very, very, very careful. Because replacement theory has a lot of strings and a lot of connection to things. See, you guys forget sometimes, not everybody, but we forget that they float things out there. How many of you remember the BIE episode, the Black Identity Extremism episode, where they tried to somehow condemn Black people for being strong in their own personal identity and questioning society? And when that didn't work, they went to CRT. Somehow CRT is, excuse me, I asked a critical question about history. And that the fact that history can't move, I can look at the laws and who voted on what and what were the premises of it and what were the outcomes of it. And I can make a rational decision as to whether this is a beneficial law. This is not, I want white children to hate each other and hate themselves. Well, I don't care. If they hate themselves, the trick is on them. But nobody, brothers, nobody is making you self-aware. You should be self-aware. Because the same people who talk about this replacement theory, I'm going to show you guys tomorrow, not today. I'm going to show you guys how bad this replacement theory. We have a man of God in a church calling, he literally said, if you are Christian, you cannot be a Democrat. He said, if you are Christian, you cannot be a Democrat. He called them baby killers. This is a man who also, let me throw this out, he was also against the vaccine. And he had people in his church that were following him and they were dying from COVID. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you see replacement theory at its highest because that's when the anxiety is the highest amongst white folk. The thing that really, really disturbs them or disgusts them is when we don't react. When we don't give them platforms. When we somehow don't come to ask help for the people who hurt us in the first place. That is a sick psychosis. That is, you don't love yourself. That is, you can't go to people. I don't go to people for solutions who are always giving me problems. In the words of Clifford Moss, never take advice from a man who's smoking a cigarette while pumping his gas. That is the state of white America right now. Because I look at white America, there are no leaders in white America. There are no leaders. Much the same you hear stories about black mammies having to run a white household because ain't nobody know what they were doing. We just don't have a black mammy right now because the black mammies don't want to be around. And there's no such thing as black mammies. They were black, educated women who understood they were dealing with fools. We'll be right back after that here on this message. Here's White Folks and Replacement Theory. Go ahead and run that commercial. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just gotta hear don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe. And your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
And we're back. We actually have a guest in our comment section. It's okay, Satana. We get these every once in a while. And I understand. This is the replacement theory at its best. Hey, how you doing? The producers of these vaccines know that they are worthless, but they go on selling them anyway. Dr. J. Anthony Morris, former chief vaccine control officer for the U.S. Drug. How do I know? I mean, who is he? And who are you? Let me ask you a question, Taru, whoever you are. Why do you even come to the show? Are you afraid that black people think independently that Muslims are somehow educated, that somehow we won't follow what you said because you're scared? And you need us to feed off your anxiety? We don't. You know, I wasn't going to put you on the screen, but I'll put you on the screen because I want you to know ain't nobody scared. Ain't nobody afraid of you. So I take all comers. Look here, I'm a 55-year-old black man. I was here for social media and live streaming. You know what? I know what it is to give something up. I know what it is to be suspended for a semester from school because I was doing the right thing, trying to fight against apartheid. Who are you? Hide me, hide that thing. Give us your name. Give us your pictures. Don't be no punk. This is not a punk show. You want a punk show? Go to another platform. This is not a punk show. These are real people. You get the whole Shout Out Show family looking at you going, really? Let me give a shout out. Was that my brother Salim? Forgive me, brother. I was just inviting somebody who came on here with some fitna, so I just let him have it. There you go. Are you happy? You got your 15 minutes of fame. There you go. So let me tell you why we need Terror Destroyer on the show. Because Terror Destroyer, they follow a cult. Is it scary to you that at the time that everybody was denying the vaccine, that Donald Trump got COVID and somehow he miraculously got through? Do you think seriously that he didn't take some type of retro drug that somehow directly gave him good health, put him back on the street of prosperity and good feeling? Come on now. All these congressmen talk about, I ain't gonna take the drug. Well, guess what? A whole lot of people took this vaccine after they said they weren't gonna take the vaccine, but what they did was they demonized everybody else that took it. So when they would demonize everybody, they were like, come on back here and give me a shot. And so even this, the whole idea of replacement theory, and this is going to be deep, so pay attention. The replacement theory is a suggestion, brothers and sisters. It's a suggestion. Many years ago, 2001, someone came up with the term Islamophobia. And when we had the issue with 9/11, Islamophobia became this big thing. But what I noticed is that the people who were Islamophobes did not use the word Islamophobia. They did not say that we are trying to perpetuate Islamophobia on Muslims. They gave us the term, circled us in a space where we stopped talking to one another, tried to cut us off from our religion and compromise us. And now the word Islamophobia has been in our dialogue since 2001. You're talking over 21 years, because they can't come in with this foolishness. They can't come in as themselves and make the case. But if you give it to them, you'll make the case. Like they say that whole, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Yeah, well, you can leave a gun someplace and nobody will touch that gun. But the moment somebody picks it up and somehow has an emotional inkling to hurt somebody else, then you have a debate. Many people are safe gun users. I know many of them. But it is the fact that people try to put this whole thing. That's why we're not talking about. This is interesting. This is interesting. Well, all these shootings, when the shootings happen and everything in terms of gun control, everybody made an argument about mental illness. Well, what the hell you think replacement theory is? What do you think it is? It's mental illness. But because it's white folk talking about it, somehow it's justice. Somehow it's a concern, and we need to hold on to our values, our great American Christian values. And that's what they did. Let me tell y'all something. This is how deep it is. I saw an episode on a show called Vice. If I can find it, I will bring it back. I'll bring it on the show. U.S. conservatives are going over to Hungary, the country of Hungary, to learn how to be even more successful being conservative. They are leaving this democracy, going to Hungary to watch an authoritarian rule. A man who stays in power by changing the Constitution, by redlining districts for the vote so he can't lose, and suppressing the media. This is the same thing. This is the same thing that we're talking about. And as we talk about this replacement theory, folks, it's the same game. You ain't moving. Nobody probably on this platform is going to get hustled. We've seen it before. We've seen it at the white commissions. We've seen the KKK. This is how stupid America is. We have a war against Germany, and we still manage to have a Nazi party. Come on, y'all. Am I saying that white people, in terms of racism, not that smart? You damn skippy, I am. In terms of policy, the policy makers, they're not that smart. I told y'all, roll back. How did Mitch McConnell vote in 1950? What were his sentiments on black folk in 1950? And Native Americans, Latinos, even into the 60s, where people thought they had a platform where they could stay racist. Think about that. You know, all of this has a lot to do with where we are now. And it has to do with the fact that we have to be willing in a large space, in a large public space, we have to be willing to ask critical questions. That's why people don't want critical race theory, because it's critical. Meaning that when I ask a question, you got to be like Dan Rather and Ed Bradley on 60 Minutes. You got to have all the answers. When you ask a question, it ain't nothing but rhetorical. People tend to, for lack of a better word, sorry about that, tend to incriminate themselves. Well, listen, that's my time on the ShOUT show. We'll be back tomorrow, inshallah, and we'll touch on some of these issues. Let me know what you guys are thinking for a Thursday show, inshallah. I want to keep it light like we did last. Shout out to Films That Made Me Smile. So I'll be back. But just think about some of the stuff I said, all right? This is Preacher Mars signing off. God bless. We will see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.